Good morning and welcome to Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. I'm your host, Tom Moore, and this is episode 23, believe it or not. So I'm a little out of sorts. I am not in the Farmers Electric studio in our headquarters, Clovis, New Mexico. I'm actually on the road. Thursday and Friday, I had a meeting of my peers, the New Mexico Marketing and Member Services Association. We had that in Santa Fe. Thursday morning, I did a session on how to start a podcast. Now, it wasn't on how to perfect a podcast, but I'll leave it up to them. But I think it was fairly well received. I made some new friends. We have some new people in the peer group, the association, New Mexico Marketing and Member Services Association, and some longtime friends. But I want to give them a shout out because they put up with me during Thursday morning session, and I really got some positive feedback from them on my session. So I'm going to give them all a shout out. Now, here they are. I'm just going to name their first names. Shout out to Howie, Jimmy, Carol, Scott, Lonnie, Delaney, Sylvia, Tillman, Beth, Morgan, Will, Tom, Talia, Evelyn, Angel, Vince, and can't forget Wild Bill. I left Wild Bill at the end because he said he had tuned in and started listening to my podcast. So I want to hear back from him when he hears this. We'll put him to the test. But in a nutshell, my session was don't overthink it. Get your equipment. It may cost less than $1,000 plus a laptop. Now that can range. That can be anywhere from $500 to $1,500. But we already had a laptop at work, so I didn't count it on my expense. It was one we were using for other things, but not often used, so I'm utilizing it on a regular basis. But I basically told them, take one from Nike. And I said, just do it. All right, so you might get a little background noise because I'm not in Santa Fe. I'm actually part of the way home in our home in Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I'm in our little smallest bedroom. I call it our office. But there's a bit of a little echo in the background, but it'll be fine. So recently I wrote an article on do-it-yourself home checklist. And I thought this would be great material. And mainly because I put a lot of this to use. So we bought an old farmhouse. I've talked about that before. And it's turning 80 years next year. So it's 80, let's just call it 80 years old. And I've been putting off some things that I really needed to get to. And some of them aren't the most desirable place that I want to be. One of them is the crawl space and the other's in the attic. But I went ahead and did it. I just bit the bullet and no excuses. It's, if this is the time of year you kind of want to do it because it's not necessarily bitter cold in the attic or in the crawl space, and it's not sweltering hot either. It's somewhere in between. But still, my thoughts were, am I going to counter, creepy crawlies, spiders, bugs, or other, little creatures? And, well, I did it. And yes, I had to deal with some of these issues, but they weren't nearly as bad as what my mind had them out to be. I did see a centipede. Those are pretty gross if you haven't. But nice thing about centipedes, if I can capture one, I give it to my chickens, and it's like a delicacy for my chickens. And it's weird the way they eat them. They don't just start chewing on them. They'll start twirling their head, and it stretches the centipede out, and then they just kind of slurp it up like spaghetti. And it's hilarious. But going through the crawl space, I didn't encounter many real surprises. All in all, things look pretty good, especially for an 80-year-old home with galvanized plumbing. However, that being said, I am seriously considering replumbing my supply lines. Most of my my sewer lines or gray water lines have been replaced with PVC. So I'm pretty good there. That was kind of a nice surprise. But I am thinking about replumbing or having replumbed the supply lines with PEX. So we'll see how that goes. But, no rush, because, it is 80 years old without any major problems. That's a pretty good track record for old galvanized pipe. But I kind of got inspired, by the crawl space. So I'm already dirty. And I thought, I'm in the groove. Maybe I should go ahead and get into the attic as well. So I did. I did find a minor roof leak. I was able to find, it's so weird how when you're on the main level, and then you get into your attic and you get kind of turned around and kind of discombobulated. You don't know which way is north, south, east, or west. But I did find a leak, and where there was some staining and lack of insulation, so it was easy for me to find. But I decided just through reasoning that that's probably the leak we had in our dining room, which we've had a new roof since then. So I'm not too worried about it. I do need to make the repair in the ceiling in the dining room, because we're going to take that popcorn down anyway, but it's got some stains, and it's got some, the popcorn kind of fell off, and there's sheetrock tape that's showing. So I need to take care of that. But anyway, while I was up there, I found rock wool insulation, and we are definitely needing insulation. I really thought I might find cellulose or bats or something like that, but I determined it was rock wool, and that's good insulation, but it's something you really don't find around these parts necessarily. The most popular right now is probably loose fill fiber, which is mainly if you've got a newer home or you've just retro added insulation recently. It looks like snow. That's kind of what it looks like. It's white and fluffy, like cotton. But I could do that. That's one option. Another option would be cellulose. That's a little better. It's a little more dense. Cellulose is basically recycled old newspaper, all chewed up. I could foam it. I could put batting down on top of the rock wool. But I'm not sure. I think whatever I do is going to be DIY. I'm going to do it myself, or with the help of my lovely bride, and of 38 years. She's pretty handy. She's a good helper. But once I did those two things, I thought, and that's what led to my writing this article that I'm going to be taking this from here in a moment. This list is, there's a lot of other folks out there. Contractors are expensive. You don't want to call them for just anything necessarily. Now, some of you, I understand, might not have the ability physically or the knowledge to do some of these jobs, but for me anyway, I'm still capable. Things that I don't understand completely, I ask. I'll ask a friend that might know something about it, or I ask YouTube, and I watch videos and become educated that way. Knowledge is whatever, knowledge is knowledge gained. You got to hear it from somebody, right? You don't just dream it up. But when you're in the crawl space, check to make sure that the vents are unobstructed, allowing airflow through the area to prevent mold and mildew. That's something you really need to pay attention to. Check for signs of mold, mildew, or moisture. Check for droppings, food debris, and other signs of rodents and other pests. Now, if you notice signs of rodents, it's a good idea to look over any pipes or wiring, giving them an extra attention. And rodents love to chew on wires and these kind of things. and could lead to serious problems later. So be on the lookout for that. If your heating, ventilation, and cooling HVAC units ductwork is in the crawl space, be sure to check it. Leaky air ducts are one of the primary causes of high utility bills. It helps you make sure your unit is on, and you should be able to see take that back. Make sure your unit is on. I should be able to read what I wrote. And you should be able to see movement, hear or feel major leaks. Now, I read an article one time through one of my utility magazines, and it said, I think it was a full 1/3 of how all high bill concerns stem from loose ductwork. 1/3. I thought that was high. But since then, in this house in Las Vegas, I had a couple of high bills, and my propane was depleting pretty quickly, and I thought, what is going on? So I went up in the attic, and lo and behold, the attic was warmer than my house because some of the ductwork had come loose and was heating the attic. Literally. The attic had a heater because the ductwork had come completely loose from the plenum. And the furnace was just blowing air right out into the attic. I mean, high volume too. So I thought, well, there we go. True enough in my case. Being able to see, any movement or things like that makes a lot of sense if you're ductwork. And that's what I saw when I got up there. We have some cellulose, and I could see it just kind of moving. And I thought, okay. And then I got a little closer, and sure enough, it was loose ductwork. In the attic, you never want to enter the attic in the heat of the summer unless it is unavoidable. And that's what I'm talking. That's why I'm saying this time of year is a good time, because in the heat of the summer, or the height of the summer, it's 100 degrees out. Your attic could be approaching 120 degrees, and that's just dangerous, just flat out dangerous. So try to avoid it. Summer days in the attic are tough because temperatures can be extreme. Most roofs absorb the heat from long summer days, and that's why it penetrates those roofs into the attic. So make sure it is a cool day when you choose to do your attic inspection. This is actually the best time of year to do this. I just mentioned that. When in the attic, check that the vents are unobstructed by insulation and any other material. Properly vented attic will help move hot stale out and replace it with cool evening air at night. And we've talked about this quite a bit when we were talking about whole home fans and how quickly you can exchange your stale air in your home if you have a whole home fan. And I don't know what episode that is, but if you go back and listen to the podcast, there's at least one whole show dedicated to whole home fans. They're pretty cool. So this time of year, not as effective because it's getting cool outside. I mean, we may have a mid-70s day, but typically what you want is the cool summer evenings or early fall, late spring, where your temperatures rise during the day, and then at night they start to cool off considerably. And if they're cooler than the temperature is inside, say you've got your house in the middle of the summer at 78 degrees, and it cools off at night below 78 degrees, you can exchange your hot air inside the house just by opening a couple of windows. You got your whole home fan in the attic. In your ceiling somewhere, there's a supply vent where the fan, then when it's operated, when it's turned on, sucks the air from the outside through those open windows. Now, they just have to be opened a crack, not a lot, just a crack, a couple of them, maybe 2 different parts of the house. And they pull all that air outside, inside, so it starts cooling it off and creates a breeze, and then sucks it up into the attic. And then you have an exhaust fan in your attic that takes it out into the atmosphere, into the air. And it will exchange, I can't remember what it was, but I think it'll exchange all of your air in your home. Like, I need to look this up, and I hate to fib on my podcast, but it's like completely exchange all the air in your house 3 times in 10 minutes or something like that. I mean, it's a crazy number. But it also gets rid of kitchen smells. Let's say you cook bacon and maybe your kitchen's not properly vented, but it doesn't matter when you cook bacon. You're gonna smell it for 2 or 3 days. But that would help exhaust that stale cooked bacon smell, even though you like it, but you only like it when you've got bacon. If it's the next day or the next day, it's no good because you think you've got bacon, but you don't. It's just the smell that's lingering. Check your attic insulation, which I did. Typically, it is located on the attic floor. You want your insulation to be even throughout the attic, and it should typically cover your ceiling joist and then some. So if you're 2x4 construction or 2x6, you really don't want to see the wood. You want it above that. But we suggest, so that's only 4 or 6 inches. We suggest like 12 inches of loose fill fiber, which would put you at about an R40, give or take. And that's going to be adequate for our part of the country. Be sure to check any knee walls for insulation as well. A knee wall is a vertical wall visible from the attic that has conditioned space on the other side. Most finished attics have knee walls, as do some 2-story homes. Check the roof deck, the rafters, and insulation for signs of water intrusion, such as stained boards, and that's what I found. Check your HVAC ductwork, again, with the unit running. Now, when I went up there, my upstairs unit is 2 separate units. I've got a downstairs unit and an upstairs unit, and I did turn it on, and it was fine. All the ductwork was in place because we had just replaced it. But still, you want to double check. But we'd only replaced it, say, a year before. And to my surprise, the big surprise was 2 old units still up there in the attic. The contractors didn't take them down, and it's partly my fault. I should have made sure this last time we installed the new unit that I asked them to bring down the old unit, but I didn't know there was another unit up there. And it was sold. It looked like a Art Deco design. The lines were really crazy on it, and it kind of reminded me of a 55 Chevy Bel Air, some of those lines, and it was kind of amusing to see those 2 sitting right next to each other. But that seems like an unnecessary weight. So probably sometime in the future, I'll be getting up there and taking those apart and bringing those down. Check your any vents coming through the attic to ensure that they are properly vented to the outside. Check for attic fans or accesses that are unsealed and uninsulated. Check your water heater if it is in the attic. It's not common, but some homes do have them there. If you've been looking for your water heater and wonder where it is, it may be in the attic. If you find any issues that you don't feel comfortable taking on, contact a professional. That's what I was talking about, to help you, because there are some jobs that are just too big for you. You've just completed the DIY home crawl space and attic check. Congratulations. This should give you peace of mind and help you live a healthier, more energy-efficient life. So I know that was fast and a lot of reading from that article that I'd written just recently, but hopefully it was helpful. We are about 20 minutes after the hour. And I do want to do this day in history. Our show might be a little short. But again, I want to give a shout out to my friends and colleagues from the New Mexico Marketing and Member Service Association group. It was great spending a day and a half with you folks, and hope you had safe travels home, and hope to see you next time. I think our next meeting may be this spring in Ruidoso, and don't know yet what the topics may be, but I am really looking forward to it. So this day in history, November 21st, Born this day, November 21st, Voltaire. He's a French philosopher and author who challenged authority, religion, and social norms. Born November 21st, 1971, Michael Strahan, football star whose defensive play led the New York Giants to help win Super Bowl 42. Now, it took me a little while to figure out which Super Bowl it was. 42. I think it was maybe 2011. But why in the world do they give the Super Bowl numbers in Roman numerals? Does anybody know? If you do, please write us on our Facebook Messenger, Morning Buzz with Energy Guy. Just write me a message and say, this is why they use Roman numerals. And I'll be happy to give you credit on my next podcast or a future podcast. Speaking of Messenger, send me a question. It's been a long time since we've had a question, probably several weeks. I'm going to guess probably 8 or 9 weeks since we had a question sent to our, and the last two I had were anonymous. I don't know why people don't want to take credit. Maybe they feel a little silly and don't want to admit that they didn't know these answers, but hey, I don't, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I might call myself an energy expert, but heck, I'm always learning. I learned a lot the last couple of days in Santa Fe with this group of really smart people that I mentioned earlier. But going back to Michael Strahan, Super Bowl 42, in the Roman numerals, that's XLII, if you're wondering. I had to look that up. Strahan also has hosted Good Morning America and is still helping host Fox NFL Sunday. And I look at Michael Strahan, cool dude, dresses sharp. He's got this gap in his teeth, but I guess he's kind of famous for it. I think he's got tons of money. Why didn't he get that fixed? But it's kind of his trademark look. I mean, it's not a bad look necessarily, but I just think this guy's probably worth millions and got the little gap in between his teeth. Dave Letterman was the same way. Heck, I was the same way. I had a little gap in my teeth. Not like David Letterman or Strahan's. Mine was a little bit smaller than that, but I got it fixed. I might have been one of the first persons ever in our town to have Invisalign. It was 21 years ago. They put me in Invisalign. I was kind of worried about going into metal braces, at almost 40, 21 years ago. And I don't want to, look like some teenage kid. And so it worked out great that all I really needed correction was that gap and just a couple other little adjustments here or there. So I know I was the first person for our orthodontist 21 years ago to get Invisalign. So little history you didn't ask for. Let's see. I know I've got a little more here. All right. Sorry about that. I told you I was a little miscombobulated today, mainly because I'm not where I normally am this time of where I'm taping the show. But I'll go backwards here a little bit. So on November 21st, 1864, President Lincoln allegedly writes to the mother of Civil War casualties. Legend holds that on November 21st, 1864, President Abraham Lincoln composes a letter to Lydia Bixby, a widow and mother of 5 men who had been killed in the Civil War. A copy of the letter was then published in the Boston Evening Transcript on November 25th and signed Abraham Lincoln. The original letter has never been found. So, legend or fact? Not sure. But interesting. I had one more, but I don't know where that is. I apologize. There it is. This is an interesting one. November 21st, 1976. I'll give you a minute to think about that one. It was a movie. And they've made several since then. Several other one based on the same character. and it starred Sylvester Stallone. You guessed it, Rocky. November 21st, 1976, Rocky, starring Sylvester Stallone as the underdog prizefighter Rocky Balboa, debuts in New York City. The movie, which opened in theaters across the United States on December 3rd, 1976, was a huge box office hit and received 10 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and the then little-known Stallone Rocky ultimately took home 3 Oscars, including one for Best Picture, and made Stallone one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. I'm a big fan of Sylvester Stallone, and then it wasn't too long after that he had Rambo. The Rambo movies came out, and they were great movies as well. And then I've really enjoyed all the sequels, and there's been a number of them. I can't. Probably between the two, there's probably 12 or 13 movies between those two franchise, Rocky and Rambo. But anyway, you know what's crazy? I think he wrote Rocky. I think he wrote the screenplay. He's a brilliant guy. Now, Rocky Balboa, he doesn't sound like a brilliant guy, but Sylvester Stallone is. But I fumbled my way through this, and we're 26, almost 27 minutes in, and I'm going to call it a day. I appreciate you. I just didn't want to go a week without a show. I'm going to make a pledge not to do that. So I'll be a little better prepared next time. I won't be on the road. I'll be back in my home office. But until then, thanks for listening to Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. We'll see you next time.